Wouldn't saying no be so much easier if there was no one on the other end of it? Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Kira Wackett. Thanks for joining me for another video as we work to empower and equip you with the confidence and skills to write your own story so that you can live a life on purpose. In today's episode, we're going to cover one of my favorite boundary setting techniques, the broken record. It's not the act of saying no that's hard. What's hard is holding on to the no in the face of any pushback or pressure. Why? Because we've conditioned ourselves to see others as more important and deserving than ourselves. We tell ourselves that our boundaries, needs, wants are negotiable. We use phrases like, oh, it's only blank, or it won't take too much time, or it's not that big of a deal. We talk ourselves into doing or being something for someone else and at our own expense. We tell ourselves it's just going to be easier to do the thing rather than deal with the conflict or the disappointment or the resentment of saying no. So even when we get ourselves to the point of setting a boundary, getting clear on where we're going, what we're saying, what the ask or that line is going to be, we've maybe practiced our delivery, gotten comfortable-ish with actually saying no, the success of landing it and maintaining it is still dependent upon how others respond. If they agree, they're supportive, don't ask questions, great. All good, boundary set, check, done, goodbye. But if they challenge it or try to convince us otherwise, then the boundary erodes faster than a popsicle on a hot summer day. Which lands us right back to the beginning, convincing ourselves that our wants, needs, and boundaries are negotiable and ultimately not of value. And if you're familiar with the work that I do, you know that I'm not going to ever say that a technique or action is going to solve this issue. Changing behavior alone is not enough. In the long run, we have to address all four pillars of our foundational self: our thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and connections. But yes, this can take time, and part of building momentum and motivation to do this more profound work is trying out some small skills and techniques to disrupt those current patterns and establish a sense of hope so that you can find new meaning and ways to engage in the long-term process. In this case, enter the broken record technique. Exactly as it sounds, this skill is simply about knowing the script and sticking to it. This allows you to have an answer no matter the response from the other party, and shifts you away from taking responsibility to manage others' disappointment and wants at the expense of your own. How exactly does this look in practice? Let's use the example of a family member asking you to visit, come over for some get-together or event. More specifically, let's think about Christmas dinner. They're getting the family together, your mom's been pushing you to be there, but you don't want to go. You'd rather celebrate Christmas on your own, perhaps with a partner, or your immediate family, getting together with friends, or simply taking the time to yourself. The first step is to get clear on your answer to the request to come over. No. Say it with me. No. The answer we know is no. The second step is to build up the response a bit and give it some legs to root into in the face of pressure. There are 5 remarkable techniques we can use to craft our no that allows us to be direct without being mean, or really just more so without feeling like a jerk. I'm going to put the link to a handout that I created that goes through each of those 5 notes in the show notes, so be sure to check that out and snag that later. For the purposes of this example, I'm going to use a technique called the reasoning no, which means I say no, and then I provide a bit of reasoning behind it. This isn't about making them approve of my choice or trying to prove anything to anyone. It's about being honest with my why, my choice, my values, what is driving me, and giving that context. It gives me some foundation to lean into when I engage in that broken record technique. So let's pretend we call Mom. We say, Mom, I'm calling because I wanted to let you know that I've decided I won't be coming over for family Christmas this year. I really want to spend time alone with the kids and have it be a more intimate Christmas this year. Great, Nice, clear answer. Mom should understand, right? It's not about her. This is what you want. This is your value. You just want some alone time. It's been a hectic year. Obviously, in the midst of the pandemic, it would make sense. You just want a little bit of that reset time. Now, the third step is to come up with every possible response that you think your mom might say back to you. Because in the other side of this, we all know it's not going to be, okay, great, goodbye. Dinner's only going to be a few hours, so you'd still have most of the day to yourself. I don't see why you can't all be here for Christmas. Or maybe she says something like, we never get to see you or the kids. It's important for the family to be together for Christmas. Maybe it's something like, why can't you have alone time another day? You have the whole weekend for that. Maybe she's going to try to pull the guilt card. I can't believe you'd be so selfish. Everyone's coming. We're trying to make this special for everyone. Or maybe something like, think about how sad or disappointed grandma will be not to see the kids. And the list could go on and on. Depending on the person that you're talking to, you've likely had interactions before where they have pushed back on your boundaries when you said no. So it's pretty likely that you're going to be able to anticipate what types of things that they're going to say. I also find it helpful to think about my own shame narrative and everything I feel bad, guilty, or conflicted about when I say this no. These are all entry points for boundary erosion. List them all as possible things that someone could say. For me, that goes more along the lines of the selfish comments, or think about how disappointed someone else is going to be, or essentially putting anything into play that says, but I've put time and energy into this and you're letting me down. So now imagine that you've gotten your whole list of everything that they could possibly say, all those shame triggers and boundary erosion entry points. Now, part 4 is where we're going to role play how we're going to respond. So imagine you've done part 2, you've set your boundary, and be sure you wrote it out so that we say the same thing over and over again as you do this. And then each time you say it, read a different one of these responses. And then back to it, we're going to use the broken record technique, and we're going to amplify it with what's called a validation no. We have our base phrase. This is our general no. This is the boundary. Mom, I'm calling because I wanted to let you know that I've decided I'm not coming over for family Christmas this year. I really want to spend time alone with the kids and have it be a more intimate Christmas. Okay, so you've said your no. That's your part 2. Now imagine each response afterwards, and then sticking to our script from above, provide some validation for their statement, and then come back to the message. So for example, let's imagine she says, dinner's only going to be a few hours, so you would still have most of the day to yourself. I don't see why we can't all be together for Christmas. You might be able to pull back and respond in a way such as, I so appreciate the lengths that you go to bring the family together, and that it's disappointing not to have us all together for the holidays. This is the validation for the effort Mom's making. And here's where we return to our message. I've decided that this year we'll be spending time at home, just us. So you see how we used initially that no with a little bit of reasoning, and then coming in now, we validate Mom and still come back to that no. Now let's continue and use a few more examples. So let's say this time she says, but I've never missed a Christmas with the kids. Validation, I know the kids are so important to you and you do a lot to make their lives special. Going back to the message, and I've decided that this is how our family is going to spend Christmas this year. You can even throw in what's called the rain check technique. So again, we've used a little bit of the no with some reasoning. Here we're providing some validation. And then you can use what's called the rain check technique to say something like, I'd love to pick a day this weekend we could get together and celebrate with you then. And you keep walking through it, back and forth, to make space every time to come back to you and your boundary. The validation is not about taking responsibility. It's about making space for Mom to feel seen and heard and to honor how she's feeling, while not trying to fix it by eroding what you want and need. And then finally, step 5 is really about letting go of this responsibility at your core for the other person's disappointment, frustration, anger, sadness, whatever it might be. The practice of the broken record technique is not about becoming a robot who has no feelings or compassion and just saying on repeat, no, I'm not coming, no, 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 no. It's about making space for you and the other party to be seen and heard. It's about not losing yourself in the drive to take care of every other person. And by having a clear message that shows up each time, you reinforce to yourself and the other person the choice that has been made. They are allowed to be disappointed, the same as you are allowed to set the boundary. Using techniques like the validation and the rain check technique allow you to show empathy for their experience without taking on their disappointment, which oftentimes has been a signal for you to erode those wants and needs. A note for anyone who does struggle to say no: there is likely a dynamic that exists between you and other people in your life where they know if they push back, you will erode your boundary. That may mean that the experience of sticking to your boundaries creates more tension at first. Not because it's wrong, but because it's new. It's a change for what has happened in that feedback loop in the relationship in the past. So what I do in these moments is I check in with my intention and delivery, because oftentimes when that happens and that pushback comes into play, my shame tells me that I'm being a bad person. I'm hurting somebody. I'm doing something bad. So I ask myself, was my intention to be hurtful or harmful? Did I deliver my message in a way that was hurtful or harmful? Did I say something with the idea in mind of reacting to or pushing somebody else down? And if the answers are no, I have to let go of the belief that I did something wrong or that I'm wrong and let that disappointment lie. That's not mine to pick up. I joke about it with clients all the time. That's not your ball, put it back down. Remind yourself, this is going to take practice. I still have to walk through this before setting boundaries with probably almost everybody in my life, and go through sometimes at least one sheet of paper considering what these back and forths can be. Be kind to yourself, and remember, building a practice wherein we believe and communicate our worth and value is just that, a practice. Some days are more manageable, some are not. But showing up and giving yourself space to try is the best way to keep building it up and enhance your practice, your self-confidence, and your motivation. Okay, so now it is time for you to put this into practice. I'm sure we can all think of situations on the horizon where this trick is going to come in handy, and we're coming up with our script in advance will take away some of that tension and distress we're worried about or already anticipating we're gonna feel. And as you all know, writing things down and sharing them out loud is honestly one of the best ways to increase our buy-in and reinforce the work that we're doing. By getting it out of our head and putting it down somewhere else, there's a different commitment that we make to the work. So leave a comment below. Tell us where, with who, how you're planning to use this technique, or maybe something that you're still mulling over that you want to get some insight on. Or bonus, use the technique and come back and let us know how it goes, or what more you need, or the work you're going to continue to do to increase the effectiveness, or how confident you feel the next time you do it. And be sure to take a look at the video notes to access all the resources I mentioned throughout the video, including that handout on 5 ways to say no without feeling like a jerk, and a few other boundary setting techniques that I included. And if you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe to save yourself the time and energy to have to come back here regularly to see when there's new content, and instead get an alert delivered right to your inbox every time there's new awesomeness to check out. And if you want to stay really in the know on all the happenings at Adversity Rising, plus get exclusive content to specials, ideas, new programs I don't share anywhere else, subscribe to my email list. I'll put a link down in the notes as well. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Communication is one of my favorite things to talk about, and I'm excited for you all to increase your confidence and skills in boundary setting. Remember, you have the right to author your own story, so take back the pen. See you next time.